name is Christina White. I'm 35 years old.
Keep going.
I come from the Port Gamos-Tuolumne tribe located in Puget Sound, Washington, in the city of Kingston.
Okay, so what was it like growing up on the reservation?
Growing up on the reservation, I grew up with my family. I had my grandparents. My dad had brothers and sisters, so I had about 30 cousins around all the time, living in a 5-mile radius.
Did you see your cousins every day?
I grew up seeing my family all the time. Every Sunday we would have breakfast at my grandma's house, and then all the kids would go off to church on Sundays. Every holiday we had big family dinners, so we would see them all the time.
Do you still go to church?
No, I don't go to church.
Okay. Why not?
Growing up, I was forced to go to church every Sunday, so when I got old enough to decide where I wanted to go, I just stopped going.
Okay, very good. Now, what's your opinion on natives or non-natives making films about Native Americans?
What did I say? You didn't cut all that out, right?
You said that.
I personally am not affected a lot by knowing whether real Indians were in the movies that were made early times. Like the John Wayne movies and when movies about Native America came out, but finding out and watching a few documentaries about how they were made, the Indians that were played in the movies weren't played by real Indians. And stereotypically they were clumped together into one big area that looked like Grand Canyon to be, as all Native Americans rode horses and had a bow and arrow, and it's not really real life kind of Indians. Now that I know how it was, I think that Hollywood or the movie makers could have taken more time to find actual Native Americans from where they were trying to film these movies to actually get the way the natives really were and how they looked, instead of stereotyping them into feathers and horses and bows and arrows.
So what was your opinion of smoke signals?
I like smoke signals. It really pertained to the closeness of how people are on the reservation as far as knowing each other's business and the closeness of knowing each other's families. And when the girls came by in the car and said that we knew that Victor's dad had died, and news travels fast, so everybody knows a lot what's going on, and everybody's concerned about how the families are doing and what's next, like how they can help.
Okay, so then what do you think about them bringing alcoholism to attention?
Alcoholism is a big struggle with a lot of people that are on the Indian reservations. A lot like Darren said, a lot of people were forced to live a certain way, so that kind of travels through generations. And a lot with the way the treaties are, once people get used to being on the reservation, they don't travel off of it very often. When you're young and like you grow up, not very many people leave. They stay there and raise their kids there, and then their kids have kids there, and they just kind of stay in the one specific area because kind of all they know.
Okay. Is there any character that you relate to the most in Smoke Signals?
Maybe Victor just being around a lot of when they had the scene where he was younger and all the parents were partying and everybody was partying in the yard. That happens a lot. When like when parents are younger, or it's just the way of life that a lot of people were used to when I was young.
Did you know that film was made by all Native Americans, and how does that make you feel?
I did not know, but I think that it's good because it's, as opposed to being stereotyped in the older movies that were made, it kind of puts it in real life of the way how people live and
What's your opinion on the term Indian? Do you find it offensive, or would you prefer Native American over Indian, or perhaps a different term?
I don't have a problem with either. I think that people should be given more of a chance to describe what specific tribe they're from, and if there was more knowledge of how many tribes there actually are, as opposed to where they're from and what their names are.
Okay. How did growing up in an American school system affect the way that you felt about yourself and the way that you wanted to learn?
It didn't really affect me. The only thing that you really grow up knowing about Native Americans is when the English settlers came and they met the Indians, and the peace treaty between Thanksgiving and learning to live together is basically all you really knew. It didn't change me as a person, it's just something that I learned growing up, and it's different.
But does it make you feel less involved? Do you not want to learn as much just because you're not being represented as much? Or does it not?
No, it doesn't bother me. I wish I would have took more time to learn more than I did, but growing up in schools is, my life's just like a regular American kid life.
Have you seen the movie Pocahontas?
I have seen the movie Pocahontas.
What's your opinion?
Again, it kind of puts a stereotype of Native American people being savages and, they're dangerous and not a friendly people, and that they wanted to come and overtake it because they thought, in the movie, they thought that there was gold on the land. So they wanted to come and overtake it. An interesting thing I did know, or I learned from watching a documentary, was that in real time when that happened and the story of Pocahontas came about, she was only 9 years old, so she wasn't this adult woman princess that falls in love with the English settler that came to their reservation or land.
Do you mind your kids seeing that movie? Or do you think that is
No,
not?
I don't think it affects them in any way. I think it gives them a little bit of kind of the backline story of how they became friends and learned how to get along with each other, but I don't think it affects them.
Okay. Do you think that non-natives can accurately portray native life in movies?
I don't think so. I think they could do research and try to reenact the way it is, but without really living it, I don't think they could actually get somebody to feel in actuality the way it is growing up on the reservation or having the way of life or the cultures that come along with it.
Okay. Do you think that Native Americans are still discriminated against today?
I don't think they're discriminated on. As far as schooling goes, the government's done a lot with being able to get college grants and funding for housing, so I don't think that they're kept from doing anything specific.
Okay. What stereotypes bother you that are associated with Native Americans, or are there none that bother you?
It doesn't bother me as an individual, but as a culture, in the older movies when they stereotype them from one place and they all are coming from the Midwest and they all ride horses, they all have bow and arrows, they all wear minimal clothing.
Hello, my name is Eric Spiegel. I'm here doing this little interview for a friend of mine. I'm a Winnebago Indian from Nebraska. Traditionally, our name is Ho-Chunk, right? But they chose to rename us. That's really not even our real name. But Ho-Chunk is our traditional name for ourselves. But I'll go by Winnebago, though. It really doesn't offend me too much. So they're not offended either by it. So if they're not offended, I'm not offended.
Cool. Alright, so we've already discussed you did not grow up on the reservation.
No, my mother was part of called the relocation program. That's where they took Indians from the reservation and moved them into the city to assimilate us, if you innocent Americans, or white people. How do you want to look at it?
So then what was it like growing up?
There was like in the inner city, there's a lot of alcoholism, and I remember we had powwows on the, we hung out with some Indians, you know what I mean? There was a lot of, but I also lived in like suburbs where there weren't a lot of Indians, so there was a lot of, there was like, I ran into racism, but it wasn't directed towards Indian. They always thought it was something else, you know what I mean? Either, Mexican or, something else, Chinese, They thought I was Chinese, the black people thought I was Bruce Lee, but.
So funny. So you didn't experience any stereotypes or?
Oh, yeah, well, yeah, in the inner city, there was some taunting. There was like, the whole, ooh. I remember it really upset me at the time. I was with, like, these older ladies, right? They were watching us, me and my brother, and a couple little Indian kids. And but these Indians were taunting them. They were like, ooh. And I always thought to myself, why are they making fun of us? You know what I mean? I couldn't understand why they're making fun of us. And it made me angry, like, how would they pick on, like, little kids and like old Indian women, you know what I mean? But I do remember that. And I remember going to sleep that night thinking, when I grow up, I'm going to beat them people up.
Did you?
I beat up a few people that day.
Alright, so then, so growing up in mostly predominantly white society, I'm assuming that you went to public school.
Yeah.
Right. So then, how did that affect the way that you saw yourself, especially within like history classes growing up?
They didn't really cover a lot of Native American. They didn't never cover Native American. It's always been hidden. It's never been taught. They don't like teaching it because there's shame involved. But as I educated myself on the whole subject when I came of age. Like when I was like 17, 18, I started reading books on my own, and I started, asking questions and, going on to really, find out really what happened. And it wasn't very fun finding out what happened. It wasn't very pleasant. It made me angry. I was an angry young man.
Oh man. So then in that case, do you think that that's made you more like traditional in as far as practices go?
I've gone back to like a lot of traditional stuff. Yeah, I like Little Big Man. I read the book first before I see the movie, and I felt that it portrayed Indians in a proper light. How we were kind and giving. They always skipped that part in all the other movies. They looked at us like either we were stupid, right? In a lot of the movies, we were weak. Like one bullet from a cowboy from a white guy killed 5 Indians. That used to really bother me. And we were just portrayed in just always in a negative manner. There was very little, positive, affirmations coming from, the films back in, the 50s through the 60s. And I believe Little Big Man was like 71, somewhere around there that came out. But I felt that was a very positive depiction of Indians up until, that was my first one that I really liked.
And then, leading into that, what's your opinion on the movie Smoke Signals? Have you seen that?
Yeah, I really like Smoke Signals. I thought contemporary portrayed Indians in a true light, I believe. I like Alexei Sherman was he the producer of that or the writer?
Yeah.
But yeah, so he's native, so yeah, I thought he did an excellent job. I thought it was funny. I think it portrayed Indians in a true manner.
What was your opinion on the way that they brought up the problem with alcoholism in that movie?
I believe that it's true to native people today, that it's probably one of the biggest scourges in our, as far as people today is alcoholism. I believe that for us it's almost epidemic in a lot of places. There have been movements that we are sobering up, but I've been in reservations where literally I've seen 80% alcoholism rates in certain reservations.
And so do you think that it's important that they put that in?
Oh yeah, I believe that it should be, we all need to really kind of look at it, as a people, we need to look at it and say, hey, this is part of us today, and we need to really look at this.
What character do you relate to most in Smoke Signals?
I forget the guy's name, but the lead character, mostly, because I grew up with, my parents were both alcoholics, so I grew up, it was all around, alcoholism, so. The whole really, at the end where he throws these, was a very moving point for me.
Yeah.
And the soundtrack was really good too.
So it makes you proud that it's all made by Native people, right?
Oh, yeah, I thought that, definitely. I thought, that there's a lot of good Native actors and a lot of Native talent that is, yet to be tapped into, still to probably today. So it was probably one of the best Native movies that I've seen.
So then leading into that, how do you feel about non-natives making films about Native Americans?
I believe if they actually assist, if natives actually assist them, making the movies, and they ask, there's not a problem with it, really. I don't think, but they could, include us a little bit more. It is about us. We're still here, right?
Okay, so then, leading into that, just 1 second. So then in that case, do you think that non-natives can accurately portray Native life in movies?
I don't think so. I've yet to see one really, portray one, properly. Contemporary anyways, I've yet to see one that I believe, oh yeah, that guy's straight from the res, Stone Cold. Stone Cold Indian from the res. I've yet to see one, that actually, can that's done it and pull it off.
And then, have you seen the movie Pocahontas?
No, I haven't. It's a cartoon, right?
Mm-hmm.
No, I haven't.
Okay, so then I won't ask you questions
Yeah.
about that one then. So then do you appreciate watching movies about Native Americans, or do films about Native Americans, is it not important to you?
I like watching films with Native Americans or about Native Americans. I've always, been interested in it. Always. I've, read books and
Stuff.
I like documentaries.
Alright, so then the next question to you would be, do you find the term Indian offensive, or would you rather prefer Native American, or perhaps a different term?
I don't find the term Indian offensive. I don't, either or, Native American or, Indian, it doesn't offend me.
Okay. Alright, so the next question is, do you think that Native Americans are still discriminated against today?
I believe, in a historical sense, that we are, right? I believe that we always take the backseat to everybody, because we're the minority of the minority, right? So you never hear about, you never hear about us, So we have to go out of our way, and say, I'm the 1 in 100 guy, puts up my hand, excuse me. But, we're the minority of the minority, so yeah, I would say say, we get run over all the time, and as far as discrimination and stuff, people say stuff that I don't even think they realize what they're saying. You hear this term everywhere, right? You hear, let me go off the reservation. That's the term I'm speaking of. But people don't understand what they're saying when they say that. Like today, and I would never say this, but it's just like saying, well, let me get off the plantation for a little bit, right? It's just like saying that, right? But let me go off the reservation. People say it all the time, just offhanded. They don't even think about, what it actually means. They put us on reservations. It was like a little concentration camp. You don't go, you're not going to leave, you just stay there. But people say it offhand all the time, like it doesn't, I hear it, I'm just like, I wonder what they're trying, if they really realize what they're saying, but anyways, but to actually realize, I don't think people realize, some of the stuff they say about, Native Americans, because we don't exist to a lot of people, I lived on the East Coast where it's like, they don't realize we still even exist, because it's, we're that much of a minority.
So when people say offensive things like that, do you correct them or do you let it slide?
I'll correct them. I'm in the proper, venue, if you would, depending where I'm at.
And pause for one. Alright, so are you bothered by the stereotypes that have been associated with Native people? And if so, which stereotypes have bothered you the most? And if not, why not?
I've been bothered by stereotypes, the quiet Indian that doesn't talk, or, what was the second part of that question?
Which stereotypes have bothered you the most?
Yeah, I think the stoic Indian that, doesn't talk. I don't know if that really portrays us in the proper manner, but, there's a lot of them that do. That woo business, I really don't like that. It's really demeaning about our songs. Our songs actually mean something. They're actually saying something. And but there's a lot probably. But I can't. Just have a few things that I can say right now as far as the stereotypes. But us not talking and us just being like savages, just mostly.
Okay. Do you feel that Native Americans have the same opportunities, such as in school or the workplace, that the rest of society has?
Yes, I believe that we do.
Okay. Are you bothered by the lack of Native directors and actors and writers, etc., that are in Hollywood?
Yes. Yes, I am. But very few movies have come out that have actually portrayed us. Another good one was Thunderheart. I don't know if you haven't seen it. It's actually based on a book, right, that I read. It's called The Spirit of Crazy Horse was the book it was based on. But that was another semi-contemporary because it was based in the 70s when it was going on in the 70s. But that was another good one that I thought portrayed. Graham Greene played it. But there are a lot of good Native actors, Wes Studi, and but once again, I just think they're far and few in between. Of course, I'm interested in them, so most people just are not. So.
All right. So then, do you think that films are important to preserving Native traditions? Those that do capture the right traditions?
No, not necessarily. No, I don't think films are necessary. But me personally, the reason I would like more films about Native Americans is kind of to educate the public. You know, that's what I feel like we're, the whole education of our society is, they're not educated about us, right? So that's why all these stereotypes and all these people's assumptions, you know, that's why they exist today, you know, because they're not educated about us. You know, first they don't even think we exist, but you would never hear it in like history class or any other, you know. I went to college in the East Coast, there was no Native American studies, you know. So, just to educate the public, yes, I believe that it would help, it would be beneficial. But as far as like our culture, you know, no, I believe that that's ours. And, you know, we don't need to necessarily make films about it and carry on about it.
Do you think that previous history movies, I mean, movies like as far as like westerns go, definitely like Wes Anderson movies, John Wayne, there we go. Do you think that those movies are what are to blame for people's misconceptions and ideas?
I wouldn't put the blame on them movies, right? But they are part of it. They were definitely blatant racial, you know. There was a lot of. There was Native Americans. We have like today. We have 500 different tribes in this country, you know, and we all didn't live in teepees, and we all didn't, you know, ride horses. A lot of them did ride horses. A lot of them lived in little log cabins, little big log cabins. You know, there was all kinds of these, you know, depiction of, you know, what a Native American is, and it's not true. They'll be talking about, you know, a Cherokee, and they lived in log cabins. You know, they had children living in teepee. You know, so there's all these false depiction of what an Indian really was. You know, because we all have our own identity. You know, each tribe is its own separate nation.
Alright, and then so my last question for you is that do you think that Hollywood has a responsibility to accurately portray natives?
I've been to a few ceremonies. I was in this, they actually apologized to us. I was up at this church, and we canoed in there, and they actually apologized to us for like partaking in part of the genocide that happened. Because they did. They were part of it, and it was really nice for somebody finally to say, you know, I'm sorry for the genocide. I heard the Catholic Church did. I didn't hear it or see it. They also apologized. But I think, yeah, it would be nice for one of John Wayne's grandchild to say, you know, I'm sorry for these racial, you know, crap that he did. You know, because you gotta. No one wants to put a name on it. No one wants to take a blame. It just happened. Blah 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 blah. But yeah, I think the people who made them movies probably should apologize to you know, the Native people.
Alright, and then lastly, do you have anything that you personally would like to have people know, or is there anything that I haven't asked you that you would like to talk about?
I would like to say this. I'd say, when I see a native, or I have a kind of understanding, like, we're lucky just to be here, right? I really realize that, because you know, what happened. People don't realize, you know, how many people were killed, right? And how many people lost their lives due to this, you know, the invasion, you know. You go east of the Mississippi, and there's virtually no tribes left. There's no tribes, you know. And they pushed them all furthest west as they can go, so they couldn't push them any further west. But that part of like Native history, I just believe needs to be explained more and understood more, you know, because I hear a lot of insensitivity about, you know, like, you know, just natives existing, and I hear like, well, they're all drunks. That's the number one thing. They're all drunks, right? They're all drunks. Well, guess what? We didn't have alcohol before the Europeans got here. We didn't have it, you know. And there's a reason why they do drink. You know, for years they put them in a box, you know, and said you're not gonna hunt. They took your culture away. You're not gonna speak. We're gonna cut your hair. Blah 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 blah. And they broke. They got broke, you know. And when people get broke, they drink, you know. And not to say we didn't love drinking. We always kind of loved drinking. But just the history, I just believe that, you know, it needs to be more education on it. You know, I wish that, you know, there was more high school education, public education, because it just, the public ain't educated enough on it. You know, that's really where it all exists, right? That's where all the discrimination and stereotypes really come from.
It's from lack of education.
Yeah, lack of education.
And then I also realized, I forgot to ask you, as far as sports teams go, such as like Washington Redskins or the Mississippi Braves or the Chilliwack Chiefs, does those teams using Native American terms and mascots offend you?
A lot of times it's just honor and like, but I am offended by certain, like the Atlanta Braves song, that woo woo wah wah wah. I forget the exact nature of the song, but once again, it's demeaning, right? It's demeaning to like Native culture, Native songs. So there's certain aspects of just the name. No, I'm not offended by a certain name, you know, Braves, Warriors, you know. But when it gets into like making fun of the songs, the dance, I believe that's crossing the line, and you know, it is kind of a demeaning, making fun of. But that's where I stand on that one.
Well, thank you.
So, my mom was part of the conversation program.
So what is that about? Where they just kick you off your land and relocate you?
They just take Indians and give them like, here, it's $2,000, I'll go live in, you know, nation of Little Tree.
And the other one Christina said. Which one? Dolphin something?
Oh, Island of the Dolphins. That's about, it's about they're a tribe who lives on an island, and I don't know what you want to call them, sailors or European people came in on the island and took the Indians off the island, and one of the girls stayed back.
I call it the invasion, that slipped out, I didn't want to.
Sure it did. You didn't need to say that at all. Yeah, you did.
It was genocide.
Well, it was genocide, yeah.
Genocide is not the killing of people, by the way, it's part of it. Genocide is wiping out a culture.
And it's state-sponsored.
Yeah, well, you know, yeah, there's documentation, but they said it's